Hello everyone, this is Madhuvani Manisha. Today we are going to learn about endocrine system. The endocrine system is a network of glands that produce hormones to regulate various physiological processes such as growth, metabolism, and reproduction. Now we are going to see about types of hormones. In this, we will be seeing three hormones: peptide hormones, steroid hormones, and amine hormones. In peptide, its examples are insulin, glucagon, and ADH. Its mechanism of action is to bind to surface receptor and activate second messenger system. Steroid hormones examples are cortisol, aldosterone, estrogen, and testosterone. Its mechanism of action is to diffuse into cells, bind to intracellular receptors, and affect gene transcription. Amine hormones examples are epinephrine, norepinephrine, thyroid hormones like T3, T4, derived from the thyrosin and with variable mechanism of action. Hormone secretion and regulation. We are going to learn about feedback mechanism. There are two types, negative and positive. Most common, the output of the system inhibits a process. Example, regulation of thyroid hormones by TSH. Positive feedback, it is a rare that the output enhances the original stimulus. Example, oxytocin during the labor, hypothalamic pituitary axis. It is a hypothalamus releasing hormone or inhibiting hormone that control the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland regulates peripheral endocrine glands. First, we are going to learn about hypothalamus. It is located at the base of the brain, regulates the autonomic nervous system and the endocrine function. It serves as the main link between the nervous and the endocrine system. Pituitary gland. It is located below the hypothalamus in the sella tuburica, divided into anterior and posterior lobes, each with distinct functions. There are two types of pituitary gland. Anterior pituitary, it is a glandular tissue that produces and secretes hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormone stimulates the thyroid gland to produce T3 and T4. Adrenocorticotropic hormone, it stimulates the adrenal cortex to produce cortisol. Luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone regulates the reproductive function, ovulation, and spermatogenesis. Luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. It regulates reproductive function, ovulation, and spermatogenesis. Growth hormone stimulates the growth and metabolism in the tissue. Prolactin stimulates the milk production in the mammary gland. Posterior pituitary, it is also known as neurohypophysis, composed of neural tissue, stores and releases hormone produced by the hypothalamus. There are two types of hormone, oxytocin and antidiuretic hormone. In oxytocin, it stimulates the uterine contraction during the labor and milk ejection during the breastfeeding. In ADH, that is vasopressin, regulates the water balance by promoting water reabsorption in kidneys and increasing the blood pressure. Disorders of hypothalamus and pituitary. In pituitary, it is a pituitary adenoma, which is a benign tumor causing excess hormone production. Example, prolactinoma, which causes hyperprolactinoma. Diabetes insipidus, it is an ADH deficiency or resistance leading to excessive urination and dehydration. Acromegaly and gigantism. Excess GH in adults, it is known as acromegaly, are children, gigantism, causing abnormal growth. Now we will be seeing about thyroid gland. It is a gland that located in the neck, anterior to the trachea, and consists of two lobes connected by an isthmus, made up of thyroid follicles which contain follicular cells surrounding colli, the storage site for thyroid hormone. Thyroid hormones. It consists of three hormones. The primary hormone is secreted by the thyroid gland, which is known as thyroxine T4. Thyroidothyroid T3, the active form of the hormone converted from T4 is in peripheral tissues. Calcitonin, a hormone produced by a parafollicular cell, C cell, of the thyroid involved in the calcium hemostasis, lowering blood calcium level. Now you'll be seeing synthesis of thyroid hormone. In this, the iodine trapping is the first one, in which the iodide ions are actively transported into the follicular cells. Oxidation and iodinization. The iodide is oxidized to iodine by thyroid peroxide and attached to the thyroxine resides. Thyroglobin to form the monoiodotyrosine and thiotyrosine coupling and of MIT and DIT. MIT plus DIT forms T3 and DIT plus DIT forms T4. Storage in the colloid. Thyroid hormones are stored in the colloid bound to thyroglobulin until released. Release of thyroid hormone. First one is endocytosis. In this, the thyroglobulin is taken back into the follicular cell from the colloid. Proteolysis, it is when thyroglobulin is broken down, releasing T3 and T4 into bloodstream. Then it is transported in blood, which is the T3 and T4 are mostly bound to the thyroxine binding globulin in circulation. Only free T3 and T4 are biologically active. Hypothalamic pituitary thyroid axis. The hypothalamic secretes the thyrotropin releasing hormone, stimulating the anterior pituitary to release thyroid stimulating hormone. Then the TSH acts on the thyroid gland to stimulate hormone synthesis and release. Negative feedback, elevated levels of T3 and T4 inhibits the TRH and TSH secretion. Functions of thyroid hormone. Metabolic effects. Increase the basal metabolic rate by stimulating oxygen consumption and heat production. Enhances lipid and carbohydrate metabolism like lipolysis and gluconeogenesis. Growth and development. Essential for normal growth, particularly in the developing brain. Promotes protein synthesis and bone growth. Cardiovascular effect. Increases the heart rate and cardiac output. Enhances the effect of catecholamine sympathetic nervous system. Calcitonin and calcium hemostasis. Calcitonin produced by the parafollicular C cells in the response to high blood calcium level. Function is to lower the calcium level by inhibiting osteoclast activity, reducing calcium releases from the bones. Clinical relevance, less significant in adults but important in preventing excessive bone loss. Disorders of thyroid gland. Hypothyroidism, which is known as Graves' disease, overproduction of thyroid hormone leading to weight loss, heat intolerance, and tachycardia. Hypothyroidism, which is known as Hashimoto thyroiditis, it is an underproduction of thyroid hormone causing fatigue, weight gain, cold intolerance, and bradycardia. Bradycardia. Goiter, an enlargement of the thyroid gland, often due to iodine deficiency or excessive TSH stimulation. Thyroid nodules and cancer. Benign or malignant growth within the thyroid gland. Now we'll be seeing what are the tests for thyroid function. TSH levels, the most sensitive test for the thyroid dysfunction. First, we will be doing high TSH suggests hypothyroidism. Next, the low TSH suggests hyperthyroidism. Free T4 and free T3 levels measure the active unbound thyroid hormones in the blood. Thyroid antibodies used to diagnose autoimmune thyroid disease like Graves' disease and Hashimoto thyroiditis. Adrenal gland, which is located in the epigastrium at the top of the kidney. It is composed of two distinct regions, adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla. Adrenal cortex, it is the outer layer that produces steroid hormones. Medulla, inner layer of that produces catecholamines. Hormones of adrenal cortex. The adrenal cortex is divided into three layers, each producing specific steroid hormones. First one is the zona glomerulosa, which produces mineralocorticoids known as aldosterone. Zona fasciculata produces glucocorticoids, which is known as cortisol. Zona reticularis produces androgen, which is known as DHEA. Hormones of adrenal medulla, catecholamines. There are two types, epinephrine and non-epinephrine. Epinephrine is known as adrenaline, which increases the heart rate, dilates the airway, promotes glycogenolysis, and raises blood glucose level. Non-epinephrine, which is non-adrenaline, increases the blood pressure by vasoconstriction and maintains vascular regulation. Controlled by the sympathetic nervous system, released in the response to stress, exercise, or fight or flight situation. Stress response. There is two types, short-term stress and long-term stress. Short-term stress is an acute activation of the sympathetic nervous system leads to the release of catecholamines, epinephrine and norepinephrine. Results in the increased heart rate, blood pressure, and glucose level to prepare the body for immediate action. Long-term, which is chronic, involves the HPA axis and increased risk of cortisol. Sustained cortisol releases leads to immune suppression, muscle breakdown, and prolonged elevation of blood level. Disorders of adrenal gland. First one is Cushing syndrome, caused by the excess cortisol, leading to the symptoms such as weight gain, moon phase, hypertension, and hyperglycemia. Addison disease, caused by the adrenal insufficiency, low cortisol, and aldosterone, leading to fatigue, hypotension, hyperpigmentation, and electrolyte imbalance. Syndrome, caused by the excess aldosterone, leading to hypertension, hypokalemia, and metabolic alkalosis. Uh, Photochromocytoma is a tumor of the adrenal medulla leading to excess catecholamine release, causing episodic hypertension, palpitation, and sweating. Clinical tests for the adrenal function. First is the cortisol level, which is measured in the blood, urine, or saliva to assess the adrenal function. Second is an ACTH stimulation test used to diagnose adrenal insufficiency by measuring the cortisol response to synthetic ACTH. Dexamethasone suppression test used to diagnose Cushing syndrome by assessing whether the cortisol level decreases after administration of dexamethasone. Plasma renin and aldosterone levels used to assess the aldosterone function in case of suspected hypoaldosteronism. Pancreas. It is located behind the stomach. It is both an exocrine and endocrine organ. Endocrine pancreas composed of acinar cells that secrete digestive enzyme into the duodenum. Endocrine pancreas contains cluster of cells called islets of Langerhans that secretes hormone into the bloodstream. States of Langhans. Cell types and hormone produced as alpha cells, beta cell, delta cell, and Pp cells. Alpha cell which secretes glucagon, beta cell which secretes insulin, delta cell which secretes somatostatin, Pp cell which is known as F cell secretes pancreatic polypeptide. First, alpha cell, which produces glucagon, function and regulation. Functions of glucagon raises blood glucose by stimulating the glycogen breakdown, glycogenolysis, and glucogenesis in the liver. Promotes lipolysis in adipose tissue. Regulation of glucogen secretion is stimulated by the low blood glucose, also stimulated by the amino acid and sympathetic stimulation, inhibited by high blood glucose and insulin. Metabolic effects. Catabolic hormone promotes the release of glucose and fatty acids. Its target tissues are primarily the liver. Beta cell, insulin, their functions and regulation. First, the function. It lowers the blood glucose by promoting glucose uptake into muscles and fat cells. Stimulates glycogen synthesis in the liver, inhibit glucogenesis and promote protein synthesis. Regulation of insulin secretion. It is stimulated by high glucose after meals, also stimulated by ingredients GLP-1, amino acids and the parasympathetic stimulation. Inhibited by the low blood glucose and sympathetic stimulation. Metabolic effects. The anabolic hormone promotes the glucose storage, protein synthesis, and fat storage. Target tissues are liver, muscle, and adipose tissue. Somatostatin, its function and regulation. Function, it inhibits the secretion of both insulin and glucagon, reduces the gastric emptying, and inhibits the digestive process. Regulation, it releases in the response to increase the levels of nutrients in the blood, example glucose and amino acids. Pancreatic polypeptide function. It inhibits the pancreatic enzymes secretion and gallbladder contraction and regulates the release of digestive enzymes. Exocrine function of the pancreas. Digestive enzyme which has lipase, amylase, proteins, amylase. It breaks down the carbohydrate into sugars. Lipase breaks down the fats into fatty acid and glycerol. Protease, which is trypsin and chromotripsin, break down the proteins into amino acids. Bicarbonate secretion neutralizes acid kind from the stomach to create an optimal environment to enzyme inactivity of the duodenum. Let's know about disorder of pancreatic function. Diabetes mellitus, which has two types, type 1 and type 2. In type 1, the autoimmune destruction of beta cells leading to insulin deficiency. Type 2 is an insulin resistance in the target tissue, often accompanied by the decreased insulin secretion. Hypoglycemia. It exists insulin leading to a dangerously low blood glucose level. Symptoms include sweating, confusion, tremors, and in severe cases, seizures are common. Pancreatitis. It is an inflammation of the pancreas due to digestive enzyme activation within the pancreas, leading to auto-digestion of pancreatic tissue. Pancreatic insufficiency. Insufficient production of digestive enzyme leading to malabsorption of nutrients and steatorrhea. Fatty stools. Clinical tests for the pancreatic function. First is the blood glucose level, a fasting blood glucose and oral glucose tolerance test for diagnosing diabetes. HbA1c measures the long-term blood glucose control by assessing glycated hemoglobin. Serum amylase and lipase. Elevated levels can indicate pancreatitis. C-peptide test measures the endogenous insulin production and helps differentiate between type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed the lecture. Thank you for listening.